The Dane and Derek Show is an uncensored, unfiltered podcast. Content warnings can be found in the episode description.
Everybody, welcome back to Dane and Derek. My name is Derek, one of your two co-hosts on this shoot the shit kind of vibe. You probably know by now that I make movies and play a lot of tabletop games, and joining me, as the title would suggest, is my good friend Dane.
Hey, I'm Dane. I write, I make music, I podcast, love tabletop RPGs, and here we are, because I also love video games and tabletop games. Honestly, I'm going to talk about. I have 3 games set aside for this episode. I don't know if you. I know we're supposed to do like loose banter, but I am here. I am ready.
Yeah, you're ready. Go ahead, take it away. Take the reins of this goddamn carriage.
All right. So, because the timing of this, and if anybody who knows me would probably guess what video game I'm playing right now, we're going to come back to it. We're going to come back to that at the end so that we don't just talk about it. And I'm not going to say its name until then. So we're saving it for the end. So we're going to start with like a board game I just got to the chance to play for the first time, which is Scythe. Have you ever played Scythe?
Nope, never heard of it.
Okay, Scythe is fucking kick-ass. It's like Catan, but with mechs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's set in like a kind of like alternate version of like post 1920-ish Europe, but like pre 1930, essentially. So, the mechs are like they're very diesel punky, very industrial. And like there's a different version of like Germany, Poland, Russia, basically a Nordic country, England, and Japan. And like basically you gather resources and build buildings and mechs, and you essentially try and just be like the biggest power by the end of the game, and like you can attack other players with said mechs and stuff. And it's a very complex looking game. Like the box is really big and there's a million little pieces, but actually when you get started playing, and like once you fully grasp the win state, it's stupid simple. Like turns will go by in like 10 seconds sometimes. Like super fast. It's definitely one of those games that looks scary. And so it's super interesting though. And I really, really enjoyed playing it. And it also kind of like changed my thinking. So probably last week when you're hearing this, you and I talked about how I'm getting the feeling that like long running tabletop RPG games are just not so likely in my law school future.
Right.
And at the same time, I love games. I love the systems and all of that. And, I don't want it to be fully like I just do video games. So in playing Scythe, I kind of had this feeling of like, oh man, this like I came away feeling like, oh man, like I had like it felt like a good game of like session of D&D in terms of like how engaged with it I felt and like how social I felt as I was doing it, which kind of happens with me with like Magic the Gathering too. Especially when I go play in like a shop or something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's no like weekly, bi-weekly obligation to it. There's no like prep that a GM has to do. They just at worst, someone has to teach the game, right? But if everybody knows the game, you sit down and you just play. And I was like, oh, maybe this is the thing I do a little bit more of, when I can. You know.
Wow, you're becoming a board game daddy.
I mean, I might have to be like,
Hey, that's not a bad thing.
Oh no, it's not. It's just
great.
I'm just sad because I have like in thinking about it, I'm like, I can't remember the last time I had like a big gap in like D&D was like freshman year of college, and that was like 6 months, 7 months of like no games.
Really? Only 6-7 months?
Yeah, because it's also weird because like I also played some games on like holiday breaks. Like I came back and played with like Sam and Will, just like did some one-offs and stuff. But and then sophomore year, I found like a group to play with. And since then, I have like had no gaps, and it's been, you know, podcast, RPG stuff, like all of it, and then all through like from sophomore year through senior year of high school, you and I played really seriously, and then but before that, through middle school, I basically didn't play. I basically didn't play my 6th, 7th, 8th grade years and freshman year of high school for that matter. And then because like before that, when I was like 8, 9, 10, 11 ish, I played with my dad's friend who actually taught me how to play. So anyways, I hadn't thought about it, but I was like, oh, I might go through like a long gap of this that I haven't done in a long time. And like, that's sad. It is sad. Like, I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, that really sucks. But same hand, like, I know it might need to be done. And also there are other like cool things to do. And like, does it have to be this one thing that, even though I love it dearly, does it have to be this one specific style of gaming and being social and stuff? So Scythe kind of gave me like this hope for like, oh, there's a lot more I could do, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a lot. That sounds great. I mean, like, I'm just imagining you now with like a closet full of board games.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already have like a fair number, because Gracie really likes board games.
Really?
But she does.
Cool.
Yeah, she's got like kind of a competitive streak. She likes to win.
Oh, she is very competitive. Yes.
Yes,
we'll have to play board games next time I visit.
Absolutely, yeah. And some of them are like really like sort of, I would describe them as like gentle board games that are, while competitive, are not like, they're not like war games. Like Scythe is very much like kind of a war game. There's like an aggressive side to it. But yeah, super, super interesting. So that's my first game. What do you got?
So let's see. I've been playing a lot of Tyranny from the game company Obsidian. It's like a classic CRPG, Baldur's Gate adjacent kind of game.
Yep.
Makers of Pillars of Eternity. I put like 50 hours into that game.
Damn.
And then I got to a part where I was like, ugh, I'm locked out of a decision. And I haven't picked it back up since.
Damn.
And I realized that even though I love games where I get to have that kind of Dragon Age Origins-esque decision-making skill tree, I also just kind of sometimes I want to be able to just experience a game with like no decisions whatsoever. And so I'm contemplating starting over in Tyranny, because on reading on the Wikia, there's a way to they have like, the game portrays itself as having like 2 paths with a maybe secret third, but there's actually a secret fourth. And so I'm contemplating doing the secret fourth path, because apparently it's the only path in the game that allows you to explore the entirety of the actual game.
Whoa.
All the other paths kind of lock you into different areas, whereas this one lets you go to everything.
Damn.
So yeah, so I kind of want to do that because I love the world they've built and I want to explore it, but I don't know if I want to replay it 4 times, 4 different ways. So I'm contemplating that right now. And a big part of all, and like the other thing is like when I stopped playing that, I immediately picked up Dragon Age 2 and replayed it in 30 hours.
Yep.
And that's a game where it does a similar thing. It starts to lock you out of choices the more decisions you make.
Totally
And I
does.
think it's really smart. But I also realized that like by like Act 3, there aren't that many side quests to do.
No, Act 3 of Dragon Age 2 is like, and we are fucking in it. Like,
yeah. It's like you're basically there, and it's like I had forgotten how sudden the end of that game is.
yeah, I will say the third act of that game does have feels like there was some suffering of the development cycle in there. Like,
Yeah,
but still my favorite of the three.
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that, and I think what I'm most accomplished of in that game was that I basically like did the whole like mage hero route as a mage. I was friends with everyone, including Fenris, and I managed to romance Isabella.
Oh, good job.
I did.
Good work.
I figured out the right combination of angry, funny, and diplomatic hawk to do so.
Yeah. Romancing Isabella is actually kind of hard.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, which is something I actually really liked about that. Is it like so often I feel like romances, especially in like video games, feel very much like choose your thing, and like the non-player character doesn't feel like they have much agency.
Mm-hmm.
But the amount of time that Isabella can just fucking reject you or stab you in the back or like just kind of fuck up your day, I'm like,
yeah.
It just makes the like relationship feel much more dynamic. Like there's like more going on there. You know, like that there's
it's not an achievement to be unlocked. It's like you're actually invested for more than just. It's very strange. It's like you're invested for more than just like, romancing a character in a video game. You're invested because your character and this character get along, which I thought was really interesting. And like,
yeah. Sometimes Dragon Age 2, like Dragon Age 2 is so weird because like it does so much right, and sometimes I just like it just shows its scars of development. Like it so clearly to me feels like they wanted you to be a mage and they wanted you to romance Isabella and they wanted you to be a guy. Like just
yes,
they just wanted you to be that. Like you know. And so like for me, sometimes I'm just like, this feels odd. Like it just like it sort of feels like almost they just wanted they wanted to basically do like The Witcher sometimes is what it feels like. In the sense of like you can't not be Geralt in The Witcher. You know, like your Geralt might be different than my Geralt, but like you can't not be Geralt. You know. And so I just think that was like super interesting. And so like I think a lot of things that shine about Dragon Age 2 really come from that like fact that they made some distinct choices that you as a player don't get to make. Whereas in like Inquisition, I felt like they just wanted you to be anybody. And so in that way, like certain things could not be as like tailored to it. Like sometimes I call Dragon Age 2 to Gracie like Hawk's very bad 5 to 7 years.
it is. Yeah.
You know, like because it's just him slowly losing his family over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you can't do that if the character is a complete blank slate, right?
Correct.
In the same way that like Isabella can be this very dynamic relationship, the relationships in like The Witcher can feel much more like complicated due to the fact that because they're like, we know there are some certain immutable things about Geralt. That means that we can guarantee that Yennefer and Triss can like super play off those things, right? it makes all the relationships in those games feel much more dynamic. And that's like something I actually think really works in Dragon Age 2 that I wish was in more games is like, I think a lot of games either do like, you have a basically immutable character and there's some light choices you can make, a la Witcher 3, or you're in like fucking Dragon Age Inquisition Skyrim land where it's like, you're everybody and nobody. Whereas I actually think Dragon Age 2 kind of hit a nice medium there.
Yes, you have some options, but not all options.
Right, you don't get to pick whether or not Hawk has like a family around, or what that basic dynamic is like. Like you can change it, but like basically with Carver, you start out being like, fuck you, and Carver's like, fuck you, you know? And I think that's super interesting, right? Because if you move it over time into a very positive relationship, like that's kind of awesome, right? Like you got to choose to repair your relationship with your brother. Like that's a cool thing in a game. Anyways.
Yep. Yeah, no, exactly that.
Sometimes this podcast just becomes you and me love Dragon Age 2.
We do need to do a Dragon Age 2 special. Like,
yeah.
Like honestly, we should do like, we talk about like an element of each an element of Dragon Age 2 in several episodes, and then we should do maybe we do a special video episode where we play Dragon Age 2.
Ooh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. I'd love to do that.
We stream it or something.
Let's keep an eye on that.
Yeah, keep an eye on that one. Yeah, but yeah, that's where a lot of my gaming time has gone. But honestly, like I haven't picked up a game in like a few weeks. I just haven't been feeling it. In terms of video games, tabletop games, that's another story. But I will let you go next because we've been talking about Dragon Age 2 for a bit.
Yes, always a dangerous trap for us. So in the tabletop RPG realm, so I backed a game called Stone Top, which is a hack of Dungeon World. And it's not quite out yet, so I just have like, I basically have like the beta of it. And regardless of when this happens, the next campaign I run where I'm like sitting down with people and like, I really want to get into the game. Like there are games I play where I'm like, yeah, we're here, we're having a good time. Like I'm like here with the story, we're doing this thing together. Like I care. And then there are those games where you're like, no, we're doing this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the next one that I want to do where we're just in it. And I haven't felt that about a new system in a long time. And
very nice.
Yeah. And I think the thing I like about it is the thing that they've hacked in is mechanics for making the village everyone is from, a living, breathing thing with its own like character sheet and whatnot. It's the first time I've seen a setting and been like, no, I want to use this setting.
Oh, wow.
That's yeah. Cool. Because the game is very much about the setting. Like again, and this is part of the reason I'd be like, it need to be with like the right group, because I'd have to be like, nope, this is what's happening. Like the game is like, everyone plays humans. There are fantasy, like there are wood folk and fae out there, but like you don't get to play them. And it's like, regardless of whether or not like you always were from here, you are in this village and you fucking care about it. Like, and the village is always on the edge of the world. It's always like always. And so like, and if you don't do it, the game starts falling apart on you, and you should just play Dungeon World. Is like the thing. And so like, the thing I really, really like about it on paper is just how it like mechanizes like caring about this place and how to keep track of these things and getting players invested. You know, like the setting has a character sheet, and like that's super cool, and it has like a little map on it for everybody, and it has special moves just for when you're in the setting versus when you're out. And I do think it's like the moves have been expanded a bit such that they actually improve on the Dungeon World moves. Like the combat has been streamlined in a really good way to like include like how do you do it when there's one enemy and the whole party is fighting the one enemy, and you know, when there's like a group of little enemies on one player and stuff, and you know, and also like there's just like some really good stuff like about how to like keep like the home front sort of side of it working. Like there's a move called Make a Plan. When you wish to accomplish some project but aren't sure how to go about it, tell the GM what you hope to achieve. They'll say what's required. If you aren't sure how to accomplish one of the requirements, ask the GM and they'll tell you what's required for that. Which is like such a great thing to like keep the game moving, you know? And like they have this like really great side to it where it's like, if you want to, like it's a whole page. It's like, if you want to increase fortunes, which is a stat for your setting, you're like, the main ways are undertake an adventure on behalf of the village and return triumphant, seize a trade opportunity for something that benefits the village as a whole, achieve a steady improvement that increases fortunes. Like it's very much player driven. Is the other thing I love is like basically you hand them the game and it has like a problem built in, which is your village is kind of poor. It's on the edge of nowhere with like threats around it, and it needs to be better. And so like you have like a group goal from the start where it's like we go out and we are like the defenders of the village and like the people who do like things for it. And the goal is constantly centered around these things. Like it's just, the game is a campaign in and of itself. And I kind of love that.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. You should send me a link. I kind of want to read this now.
Yeah, totally. And I like, you know, like, and the thing is about it, I'm like, I think I would play this once, like just one time, because I don't see like heavy replay value on it because of its inflexibility with its setting.
Right.
Like there are some like Forged in the Dark games, which I really like the mechanics of, despite their character sheets on the whole sucking, which we've talked about before. But those games tend to have like pretty heavy settings built into them. But those games, you can just kind of rip the setting out and everything's fine. So long as you like put like the placeholders back in. Like Blades in the Dark, like if you don't have any other factions, the game doesn't really work. So long as you like fix that, like it doesn't have to be their official groups, right? This game I'm very impressed by due to the fact that like I don't know how you would take the setting out and somehow keep the game as it is working. Like there are things like I'd be like, I'd like to put my spin on it here or there, but like not really change it, which is really unusual. And so I'm like, that's really cool. I think the only other game I've seen in recent years that does that is a game called Band of Blades, which is also Forged in the Dark. And that one's very much a dark military fantasy, wherein like you're with an army and you do stuff, and like basically you have like every player is responsible not only for their own character but for like minor characters who can die really easily. And so again, the setting would be really hard to pull out. Though my one complaint with that game is it's like it's as complicated as some of like the truly complicated board games out there. Like it just is, like mechanics wise. I'm like, holy shit. It'd be cool. And there are some parts of it that like I get would kind of like reinforce the fantasy of like, yeah, there's the side of the war that's all about logistics. And like for people who want to do that, that's awesome. But I was like, I don't think I know a group who would want to play that. I'm not sure I want to play that. So this is
Right.
like the first one I've come across where I'm like, the setting is awesome. The mechanics in the setting are completely intertwined to reinforce each other. And the mechanics are solid and like not overwhelming.
Nice.
Super cool. Super cool.
Very nice. On the TTRPG front, I mean, let's see, I played Family of Blades for the first time.
Ooh,
Yeah, I played in a game. We had a good friend named Monica GM, which was fun playing in a game that I don't GM. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it was fun because I played against type. I didn't play like a tough character. I played like a hacker teen um, who was like super smart and like all about getting plans and using computers and stuff. And I haven't played a character like that in a long time, so that was a lot of fun. And outside of that, it's mostly been Dungeons and Dragons, which I just had my session 0 with a new group
Nice.
that wants to do some crunchy munchy dungeon crawls, which I'm
That can
kind of
always,
looking forward to because I think
yep.
it'll work really well in Dungeons and Dragons. Um, and I mean, it's a goof party. And then we have a game of Dungeon World
Yep.
that is the first time I'm GMing in Dungeon World. And we also have a goof party. And then I have 2 quest games, one of which is the podcast, which is going really well. The other of which is basically a bunch of people that want to just story tell and basically be in role play the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's been really fun. I've learned that I really like playing every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And in Quest, they're getting ready to launch their Kickstarter for a space edition, which is really fun.
Of Quest?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And what's exciting is there's a bunch of Quest hacks that are like Mecha Hack that exist now.
Oh,
And I'm like, I'm super excited to combine the two.
That's rad.
So I'm like really ready for it. And I don't know. I've learned a lot about how I GM. I think for the first time in a really long time, I kind of have figured out my strengths and weaknesses as a game master
Mm-hmm.
and the kinds of games I kind of like offer to people. And that's been really interesting because when I was like looking at the podcast, I realized that the way that I constructed the podcast was really against the way that I GM. But inadvertently, it helped make me more comfortable GMing
That's
because I
awesome.
was forced to GM differently. Yeah. And so now I'm like trying to think of like, oh, how can I align the kinds of things I GM well with the podcast in that medium a bit more. And so we're getting ready to do like a mini game in the middle of our main story
Oh, cool.
to kind of just like take a break from the main story because I think like we need a little bit of time to kind of like let things digest. And so I think we're going to do like a mini like one-shot multi-part thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm preparing that, and that's been a lot of fun to prepare something in the same universe using a game that I'm now much more familiar with
Mm-hmm.
people who are now much more familiar with that. And we're trying to make it contrastedly different than the game we're playing. So yeah, that's where I've been in TTRPG world. Before we get to your last game,
Yep.
which I'm assuming it's the last game,
Yep.
I have been playing a lot more Magic the Gathering.
Nice. Love it.
And yeah, I've been doing some drafts with some friends, and I've been getting better at learning how the game actually works, which has been really rewarding despite my continual losing record. I'm like I built, like I understand how ninjutsu works now for Neon Dynasty, and I really like the samurai cards. I built a 7 samurai themed deck the other day, and it was like it was a 5-color 7 samurai deck. And it was not a nightmare to play. It just was a very slow deck. It took too long to pop off and really do anything cool. But there was a foundation there that I think I'm going to port over to a standard deck because I really like standard as a format versus like I play a lot of Commander with my friends, but I do really love standard. I think it's because like I have such nostalgia for those sushi nights we used to have and playing standard because it was the only format I think I knew how to play back then and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so maybe next time we meet, I will have a physical standard deck I can pull out and we can duel.
Oh, I'd love to.
Because it's been a while.
It has been. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's time for the reveal of the final game that you've been playing.
Yeah, it's I don't know how to, I'm not gonna like build it up. It's Elden Ring. It's Elden Ring. I am a huge fan of From Software games. The only one I haven't beaten is Sekiro, and that's just honestly because it's a little far off from the Soulsborne formula for me, which is to say, like, I couldn't make a different build if I got stuck on something. There is only the shinobi way to play it, which is the point. Like, that's totally cool. It just didn't land for me. But Demon Souls I love, Dark Souls 1 through 3, Bloodborne, all of it. Love it, love it, love it. And so Elden Ring, which is Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne meets Breath of the Wild, has been incredible. Like, genuinely, I'm like, this is fucking good. And it even builds on Breath of the Wild in a really cool way, which is like, if you think about it, Breath of the Wild, after a certain point, basically, like you when you go on and like you see something off in the distance, kind of what you end up finding is like you will find another disposable weapon, you will find a shrine for an orb for hearts or stamina, you might find a Kokorok seed, maybe you might find a spot for a photo memory sort of situation, and that's kind of about it. At the end of the big dungeons, there's there's the spirit abilities from all the previous guardians, right? Mm-hmm. And Elden Ring kind of expands on that. Like, there's a limit to what you'll find, but it's much bigger, and it also may not apply to you. Is the other thing, right? Like, Link is the thing, right? Like, Link is like swords, archer, like climbing stuff, right? Whereas, like, for me, I'm playing like an intelligence dex build, and so anything that's like faith or strength, I'm just like, this is trash. So like I might go through a whole dungeon and fight enemies I've never seen before and may never see again, and a boss that is like in other games, I'm like, I think this would be like a big boss, and this is just sort of a mini boss here in this side dungeon that's not even like a full dungeon. Cool. And it's just kick ass. And then I get like something at the end, and I'm like, well, that doesn't help me at all. But that was fun, and like that's been like the really great bit about it is like, it's been just fun to just find shit. And Breath of the Wild, I think on the whole has one major advantage over this game that I just don't see being taken from it anytime soon, which is it's approachable in a way that Elden Ring isn't. Like, Elden Ring is way more approachable than any From Software Souls game I've ever played. Yeah, it just gives you a lot of options. And also, in most Soulsborne games, they seem very open world. Like, they're like there's always that thing of like, if you see something off in the distance, you're going to go there probably, like 95% of the time. And that's true, but your path to getting there is typically pretty linear in like Dark Souls. Like, so like if you hit something, you have to deal with it or you're done playing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because there's nowhere else to go. Like, sometimes you'll be in a situation where you have like 2 branching paths you could go on.
Oh,
but you have, and that's like the thing that's different about Elden Ring is like you go down the main like storyline path, and like you can get there in about 10 minutes if you're really fast and pretty versed in the game. Like once you're out in the world, like you could get to the first major boss super quick. But unless you're one of like the freak players, you're going to get smacked. You're going to get stomped on. Like you're going to get fucked up. And like the whole game to me just feels like a go until the like you hit your current skill threshold and then go somewhere else, you know? And so there's always something else to do. And it's very cool. So for like a more beginner player, I think it's a better fit because you have options, right? Like if the dragon down in the lake in the very first zone is just killing you all the time, go somewhere else. There's plenty to do. You're not gonna like you will be able to find something you can probably handle, assuming you have enough patience and all that.
That's good to know because like I just started playing Dark Souls 1. And let's just say I run away from everything, and it's very difficult to get back the same way you came because it locks you out of going back certain ways.
Yeah, but and also like if you are struggling with an area, you can't go anywhere else, especially in like Dark Souls. Like maybe you're really struggling with like the Undead Burg, for example. So what are your other options? I guess you could go down to the ghost town below Firelink Shrine, or I guess you could go to the fucking catacombs, I guess. But both of those are way worse. Like they're so much worse than the Undead Burg. Like, like what are you actually supposed to do? And so like, yeah, it's a struggle. It's genuinely a real struggle there. And so like, I think that's been like a huge improvement. On top of it, like there's a bunch of just quality of life improvements. The crafting system, I'm actually kind of about for one reason and one reason only, which is arrows are now free. Which literally being an archer in any of those games is always a suck on some level because you have to buy arrows. Which means your souls are getting sucked away in a second area other than just leveling and everything else you need them for.
Right.
And so it's just like, it's hard to kind of do an archer build. I've only pulled it off once and it was awesome when I did. But like in this game, I was like, I'll admit I had to restart twice because I was like, I don't think this is the right starting build. And I'm like a little too far in, to like, with like the stats to just like want to correct it. And like the respec point is so far down the line that I don't want to. And so like the third time I'm really happy with the build. But I was like sitting there, I was like, next time I'm going to do an archer build. That's going to be fun. Like genuinely, I was like, that's going to be really fun because I don't like, all I have to do is like hunt a couple animals and then suddenly I have arrows again. Like it's not
sounds great.
Yeah, it's so cool. And so like the fact that I'm already low key thinking about like a second run at the whole damn thing, it's awesome. So yeah, it's so cool. And I've really been enjoying my time with it. I think some of the marketing got away from itself, because there's like a subset of people who bought the game from basically just off the ads, not really knowing that it was the next Dark Souls.
Yeah.
And like the ads are all about like claim your right as the Lord, and like the music's like kick ass, and it's showing all this cool shit, and like, but they don't know that actually the basic mechanic of the whole game is try a thing, you'll die, and now you'll know it better and try again. Like, like it's not that it's about getting your ass kicked. It's not about being the baddest of the bad, you know, until you get there, right? Like, and then you'll feel awesome, but it's a process. And so it's very interesting. And yeah, I could probably go on about this game for ages, but we're almost at 40 minutes. So I'm going to stop.
It's okay. We'll have to do an Elden Ring follow-up.
Yeah.
It's in my wish list. I've been contemplating buying it. There was just a part of me that was like, maybe I should at least try and beat Dark Souls 1 before playing Elden Ring, just to like warm up. But from what you're saying, maybe I should just do the opposite: play Elden Ring to then play Dark Souls 1.
Yeah. Because like the truth is, I think any of the Soulsborne games would be easier after, because then you get to learn all the mechanics. You going back, you definitely feel like a little bit of like, where did my fun thing go? But like the basics aren't different. Like when I went back to Demon Souls, because I played Demon Souls was like the most recent From Software game that I've beaten for the first time. And when I went back to it after having played like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, I was like, okay, there's some things in here that are real fucking clunky, like really clunky. But it's a game from 2009, so like,
yeah.
And so like going back to Dark Souls after playing Elden Ring, you'll be missing a few things, but in the same hand, like you will fully be like, you'll know how like the dodge roll mechanic really works, and like how like when to block versus when not to, and like how to make a build and all that good stuff. And also the bosses in Dark Souls are easier than the bosses in Elden Ring. Which is entirely due to, like, in my opinion, Bloodborne. Like the bosses that they made, there's a clear difference between when they did it before and after Bloodborne, which is they figured out speed. Like they figured out how to make a fast enemy, without it just being like, and you're fucked. Where you are still just slightly above their speed. And so like, it's very frantic at times. So going back to like something like the big fucking iron golem or, the Tauros demon in Dark Souls 1, it's like, haha, you can just like spin around and hit him in the butt forever, which is like not a thing you can do anymore. So yeah, it's been very fun, but like, I gotta shut up. We end the show, Derek, end the show. We're trapped here forever.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening to the first episode of the Elden Ring podcast with Dane and Derek.
We'll be back forever.
We will be back. Just like how last week was Potpourri number 1, this is Elden Ring number 0. And we'll be back later on with more chit chats about that.
Remember how you liked us talking about Ma and stuff? That's over. We only talk about Elden Ring now.
It's just
Elden Ring is all. Elden Ring is forever. Elden Ring until we die.
Little do we know, Dane is at a tattoo shop right now getting a tattoo of Elden Ring on his butt.
Yeah, that's why I'm really doing the headphones right now, is because I couldn't have my mic set up. It's been an elaborate ruse so I can do this podcast while getting my butt tattooed.
Yeah, hashtag Elden Ring on your butt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everyone, with that, you can follow our show at Dane and Derek. You can tweet at us about Elden Ring or Instagram us your favorite clip from Elden Ring.
There's a turtle that's also a pope. Sorry, continue.
Hashtag turtle pope. And then you can follow me at Benig-Aiello everywhere. Website's derek.aiello.com. Letterboxd is at Benig-Aiello. I recently watched the 1993 Three Musketeers, which is not Elden Ring.
Yep.
But it is filled with a cast full of great actors.
Totally. Yeah. That's 100% true. You can find me at danewrites.com. There's links to my writing on Substack, podcast. My podcast is just not about the Substack. Anyways, my music and Twitter, all of which are now defunct because I only do Elden Ring now.
Yeah, it's just you go to Dane's website and it redirects to eldenring.com or whatever their website is.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Well, folks, you could thank You could thank us for hanging out. No, thank you for hanging out with us. Jesus, what?
Thank you for playing Elden Ring.
Thank you for
Have a
playing
good
Elden Ring
day.
with us this week. Have a good day. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.